Crucial documents tied to former President Trump and the January 6th insurrection will be the focus of a major showdown in Washington today. In just a couple of hours, a federal appeals court will hear arguments that could determine whether Congress can obtain key White House documents. Investigators believe these files could expose Trump's conversations and movements leading up to the Capitol assault. So CBS News legal contributor and former Manhattan prosecutor Rebecca Roiphe joins me now to talk more on this. You know, there's a lot of stuff happening in the courts, so this has sort of not received the attention that it probably deserves, so I'm glad we're talking about it now. What can we expect from the first day of oral arguments?
The key question here in this case is the extent to which a former president still enjoys executive privilege. And so the oral arguments will focus on that issue, with Trump's lawyers arguing that there's a reason why a former president should still be able to assert the privilege and control documents like the ones at issue here, while President Biden's lawyers and the National Archives, which are being represented by the Department of Justice, will likely argue that these documents are in the public interest and that a former president does not have the power to assert the privilege. That's something that the current president enjoys, at least when it comes down to a showdown like this. So all of the oral arguments are going to focus on that issue. It hasn't been determined for good by the Supreme Court, so that remains the open issue now.
So the documents were going to be released earlier this month, but an appeals court issued a stay. Why did they do that?
Right. So very often a stay is an indication that a court gives that it is going to rule on the merits in favor of the party that wants to prevent the turning over of the documents. The court here was very clear that its stay was not an indication that it has any sense about the merits of the case. The reason why the court issued a stay here is because it wanted to preserve its own jurisdiction. And what that means is if it hadn't ordered a stay, then the documents would have been turned over by the National Archives, which would then make this lawsuit irrelevant, or in legal terms, it would moot the case because the cat would already be out of the bag. There's no reason why the appellate court should hear this case if the documents have already been seen by the January 6th committee. So the stay was merely an indication that the court wanted to preserve its ability to hear this appeal and decide the legal issues.
So, you know, the panel is made up of 3 judges. They're all appointed by Democratic presidents, including one appointed by the current president, Joe Biden. I know these judges do not make their decisions based on politics. But I'm wondering, could this fact have an impact or play a role in a potential ruling?
You know, it's such an interesting question, and it's one that's really been in the news since the Trump administration, because the former president, made such an effort to point out, this is a Trump judge, this is an Obama judge. And repeatedly, those of us who are legal experts have said, no, judges decide law and fact, and it really is irrelevant which president appointed those judges. Now, of course, to say that it's irrelevant is an exaggeration. Of course, one's political ideology has something to do with the way that one looks at a case. But, in this particular case, I think the judges will make a special effort to really try to exclude those political issues and look at the law as it stands. And so, I would say really it matters only at the margins, and in a case like this, almost not at all.
How long do these sort of cases typically take? When do you think we can expect a ruling?
I think the court has indicated it is interested in expediting this process. So there isn't a timeline, and it's hard to say, but my guess is it will be pretty quick.
And does it seem like it's headed to the Supreme Court? I mean, do you think everything can be wrapped up at this level, or is the expectation, no matter what happens, there's going to be an appeal and it's going to be moved up?
So, the Supreme Court has limited jurisdiction and it chooses its cases. And one of the bases on which it chooses its cases is whether this case has some kind of national import and whether it needs a resolution at this point or whether it should, the court should wait and see what other lower appellate courts say before it grants cert and decides a case. I think that it is probable that the Supreme Court will, on balancing those policy interests, hear this case because, of course, it's in the national interest. There are huge implications, and second of all, it's unlikely that this question is going to come up again for quite a long time, and so it hasn't, for decades. So it is something that I think would be important to resolve once and for all, and I think the Supreme Court will see that and may very well grant cert and listen to arguments in this case.
Okay, Rebecca Roiphe, thank you.
Thanks, Anne Marie.